Welcome back, baby dolls. Today, you are a little piece of corn with a bit of butter spread on you. Okay, so I have a HEX chart to show important historical information. Why is this relevant? Well, I've also created Pulse and PulseX expectations within myself. Remember, you can have something different, and I want to know where we can potentially go to. My targets have basically already factored in everything we see today. The launch, Richard disappearing, all of those get thrown into my targets where our average entry is. And if we want to start with Pulse, I believe a 1000x from the low will be reached at some point in the next 2 decades, who knows. That gives a 268x from day one sacrifice. Of course, it doesn't have to get there. It can stop way below. We are not guaranteed anything, but it is what it is. This is an optimistic friendship prophecy type of scenario. Okay, so this is for Pulse, 268x from day one sac, which is 0.0001. And PulseX is a 70x from day one sac. That is a 1000x from the low, where Ricardo Corazon does his Twitter bragging thing from. He measures it from the low, and it will go up to here because he already measured from the low, and he measured it up to basically the top here. And he said, oh, everybody's up 1,400%, when basically we were only break even. So just to kind of give you an idea of what we're in for, assuming Bitcoin and Ethereum don't scam us early. So this chart is really useful. What I did was, shout out to Mr. DB, who's been giving me this juicy information. So we're able to calculate the HEX day one entry and their weighted average. And you're probably wondering, why is this even relevant? I want to tell you right, okay? Do you see this nice arrow here? You see this arrow? This is the first halvening type of run. The first wave that we got, where it was the first pump, the first resurgence. It was the community being shown, hey, it's now a legit real thing. And what we've actually marked here, I've shown you, so it's for your information. It's really important because if we understand the HEX chart, we might be able to see what happens for Pulse and PulseX, and we'll be able to make the correct decision when the time comes. So this chart shows, it shows the day one HEX entry line, and you can see it right here. Okay, you can see the first horizontal line. So the first horizontal line, day one HEX, it was like 20-something thousand Ethereum put in or whatever it was, and it was here. So yes, it was right there. I'm going to show you the real chart later on. We'll actually do the proper measurements. The second line is the weighted average. So the weighted average is about, everyone's weighted average price is about 0.005. So that includes everybody who was entering here, all the way down. All the way down, okay, to the bottom. So the weighted average is here for the first period, okay, the first like 90 days. Then we have an easily achievable entry. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you stake for 1 day here, you get an extra 30% coins, just 1 day. And also the short-term yield was so high that all you had to do was do short-term rolling stakes. And what I did was I calculated a very easily achievable, no luck up, no real commitment at all type of staking achievement. And what you get is you drop your average entry price by another 40%. So for the weighted average, I dropped it by 40%, and you have it right here. So I have the chart, and I want to see, okay, so how is this applied today? Well, you know there are HEX, there are yield farms, right? There are yield farms on PulseX. There are yield farms on PulseX, and you can see them, and you can see the rates that they give right now. Now, of course, some of them are dropping, like the PulseX Pulse right now is like 21%, but I'm just going to assume that these will keep dropping. But by the time we look back in the future, so by the time we get to this point in the future, say the top, our equivalent point in Pulse and PulseX. So I'm going to go here. So if we ever get rewarded with friendship and we look back in 2 years, what we'll probably find is the people who did yield farming or staking, whatever's available, and just got the yield and DCA'd, they were able to drop their average entry price even more over time to stay committed as your reward, and they benefited the most. And people who just got in and did nothing, they have the worst average entry price. Of course, everybody still ends up profitable, but it's all about maximizing what you can from the cycle. So what I wanted to do is, if you remember that arrow I put in here, the first wave, what actually happened with the first wave? So this wave, I know I'm going to put it on a regular chart. The log chart doesn't show you the real truth, friends. See the regular chart here? If you look at a regular chart, you get to see where we are. So this is an important, basically intellectual exercise we do now. Where do you think you are on Pulse if we were to match it to the HEX chart? This is Pulse and PulseX, because we know our average entry sacrifice is 0.0001. I have it marked here. PulseX is obviously obliterated. It is down from that point. Like even the biggest whales offside, people are taking literally just losses. Everyone's like 65% offside. And you know, if you got a volume multiplier, if you were the biggest accounts basically. So out of like 140,000 people, maybe like 5,000 got a notable volume multiplier. Everybody else is basically the average entry price is dragged higher. So now we get to see the first day entry. The first day entry at the very top of the wave only got like a 2x. And this is the truth, okay? The first day entry only got a 2x. This was the big hyperwave pump. All the way, it only brings you back to a 2x, and then it comes back down 67%, then you go offside again. So you basically go up a 2x, down 30%, up a 2x, down 30%, and this is like, by the way, this is a long time, friends. This is like a whole year. This is a whole year. So you basically get nothing for a whole year. That's the first day entry. Now, I don't know what our equivalent is going to be for here. There also was this big payday front run pump. It went 3 to 4x, and then it comes back down. So it is what it is. And then only after Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this run that we started having up here. So I want to just do this average run. You're up 3 to 4x. You're not up that much. But we started running here when Bitcoin and Ethereum topped. So this is important to know. We don't know if we are going to get in Pulse and PulseX. We're going to get such a ginormous run. Why? Because HEX's ICO was raised in Ethereum. There's like 90,000 Ethereum collected or whatever it was. Okay, so it was done at like $200 Ethereum. And then Ethereum went to like 4,400. Okay, so ETH was raised, went from $200 to $4,000 basically. Okay, so that's huge. So Ethereum itself did a 20x. In our sacrifice for Pulse and PulseX, we raised it in US stablecoins. We raised it in DAI. We just have $670 million treasury. So we don't have the Ethereum example to do again. But imagine we did buy Ethereum with all that money. Ethereum is what, like 1,800? So how high is it going to go? This is why I'm saying this thing went a 20x. In the previous cycle, ETH did 20x. So ETH might only do 4x today, right? So you can see now ETH has a significant diminished return. Where do I get that from? That is from my cursed prophecy, just in case it happens. And it's from this big channel that I've drawn here. This is where the sad face is, where maybe the Bitcoin BlackRock spot ETF, they use it to control Bitcoin. They do some scamming. We never hit 100K. We just stop basically 80K somewhere, and then we come back down. So this is one possibility we have to be aware of so we can improve our entry price so we can take advantage of it. Now, what about if we do the HEX weighted average? So we're around the middle. If you're around the middle, how much do you get in that first big pump? You get about a 4x. Okay, so we don't know if this is going to be one for one similar, the same. But here is PulseX, for example. This is PulseX day one sacrifice. If we did a 4x from there, I mean, we barely get above there. It's not that high, right? 4x, 5x, 10x. I mean, we're hoping this happens. There's a lot of players in there. So I'm just trying to temper expectations for what happened the last time this was placed. Because here's the thing, right? Even though, yes, we are looking at these numbers, the ones you are going to be told about is this is what people will do. They will go, look at this. They will go to the very bottom here, the absolute very bottom, and people will probably show, right? People will probably be Richard himself. He'll go to the absolute very bottom. It will say, whoa, HEX rallied 176x. Wow, that means Pulse and PulseX can do it too. But we don't know. We don't know because look at this. Everybody, the weighted average, if you want to do the weighted average, look how much the average person was offside at the bottom of HEX there. They were offside 96%. The average person was offside 96%. Okay. What about the first day people. They were offside 98%. So another way to look at it is, if I want to make you the best investor of the world, I'll just go buy a stock. Or how about I'll go buy Bitcoin off the market and then I sell it to you for $1. You give me $1 and then I'll give you my Bitcoin, and then you go to the market. And then you go and you report to everybody. You go, whoa, look at me. I'm the best trader in the world. I bought Bitcoin for $1 and then I sold it at 30,000. And then you just do that every year and you think you become some sort of oracle of investing, right? It's the same thing. It's the same game, okay? You have to think about it like this, because the market is going to be pushed out to promote to you that, hey, all things are possible. And don't forget, when these words come out, all things are possible, what it really is meant to do, it's designed to message to you to keep holding, because we just started. That's what it's always for. Bitcoin, Ethereum, everything else, the crowd, everybody, it's everybody coming together. They say it's just getting started, it's just getting started, okay? It's always just getting started. But hey, look what 2021 brought, okay? Look what 2022 brought. So you know what happens when you don't play this right. And of course, we can't control how high it goes, but you can control your position size. That's the only thing you can control. So that's assuming you hold to the end. So we can control that too. You can control how long you hold, but unfortunately, the way crypto is going, how much death and destruction, and it's just very, very saddening what crypto is starting to do and how aggressively it's diminishing and how many scams and stuff come out now. So we have to get still ahead of the game. There is a way to get ahead of the game. There's always a way. That's why I'm here 18 hours a day. Please like, subscribe, press the belly button and all. Thank you very much, friends. So this is why I wanted to observe these average entry prices, because you kind of get an idea of how high things go. So you probably want to know, okay, if we went to the worst entry price first, how much did they get at the very, very top of HEX? Now, this is fantastic. They still got 160x. That's still pretty good. Not pretty good, that's very good, okay? For day one, like the day one, you're the worst person, you got 160x. Isn't that fantastic? Because remember, Ethereum did a 20x itself. So isn't that fantastic that you were able to do 160x, and you were able to get the easily achievable staking rewards. You got 30% extra for the big payday, and then you were able to just get short-term yield, which matched up. So really, when you think about it, you really got actually 160 times 1.45. You got about a 230x. That's your real number, 232x. Okay? That's super cool to know. So when you're looking at this, now I want you to understand that the sky's the limit if you're willing to hold, but there is a limit, okay? The sky is the limit, and yes, there is a limit. What about the middle person? How much did the middle person get without staking? They still went really good, man. Oh, 328x. What about the weighted average with the easily achievable staking is 660x. So that is the weighted average easily achievable. And we might find that we also get an easily achievable average entry based off the PulseChain yield farms, as I just brought it for you today, because there's yield here. And the goal is, so that how I would use this is take advantage of it. You earn yield, dump your ink, and then just buy yourself more of your bags, right? Of course, people want to play the ink game, and that's fine. Let them do that. But I just don't like taking that risk, right? I don't want to be holding something too long at the top, or because you think, well, you know, you could have used that extra 10 to 20% earlier, 10 to 20% extra coins, okay? So, by the way, this yield farm, you're probably going to have to be in them for like another 18 months. That's the truth. All the way to the end of 2024. Just farming and grabbing the yield as little as it can. As little as you can possibly get, doesn't even matter. All the breadcrumbs. So, this is the information that's super important to figuring out where we might land. Because I just showed you 660x, right? And you can see now here is the PulseChain chart. And we can just see the ranks here. So the sea creatures are ranks. We've dipped to even just make a squidder loss, but not everybody a deep loss. Pulse is holding up the best out of Pulse, PulseX, and HEX, okay? And Pulse only had 40,000 sackers at the time. So you can see it is holding up the best. You can see he hasn't really put anybody in deep destruction mode. PulseX has done this. PulseX has gone absolutely down. It's put everybody offside. And we can actually see, just because it's weaker, I actually marked you the biggest whale sacrifice. You can see we're actually a lot below it. So yeah, everybody's at a loss. Everyone. There's just people selling just for the sake of selling. That's just what happens. That's why Richard Hart's formula of let's launch at the bottom and let weak people out. You'll see people will always sell. There'll always be bottom sellers. It doesn't matter what the price is. They will just sell based off time. Okay. So I'm going to conclude by just showing you how high I think a conservative, non-moon boy type of target would be for Pulse and PulseX. And I'm going to show you how I do it in a range here, okay? And of course, I can only tell you this because I already know. For us to get these numbers here, what I'm going to show you, for us to get those numbers, it's based off Metcalfe's law. We're going to need more people coming in. So right now, there's like, what, 200,000 in the community? Okay, well, for us to get these numbers, we're going to need like 1 to 1.5 million. We're going to need like 7 to 10 times more people at some point in the next 2 years. And I will be drowned out. My voice will be drowned out. I'm already a nobody. I'm just a humble little peanut. But I will be even tiny of a little peanut. So they won't even respect and acknowledge the little salt crystal sitting on there in my little brain. That's how, we're going to have to draw a little peanut here just to show you. So that's what's going to happen when the crowd comes in. And if you don't believe me, have a look, friends, at Laser Eyes, Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's voice drowned out Richard Hartcall in the top. Michael Saylor's voice drowned out everybody because he was leverage buying, okay? So just have a think about that, all these examples. Now, what price would we land at for our PulseX? Well, what I'm going to do is, I don't want to do this easily achievable. I don't want to do the total return of HEX from this weighted average to do this because I already know for us, everybody went super hard in Pulse or PulseX, okay? They went super hard. People don't have the opportunity to keep buying lower and lower and lower. So I'm just going to do an average entry with relatively achievable staking. And what I'm going to do is just do it right in the middle. And I'm going to see from right in the middle to the very, very, very top, you got a 331x. So what I'm going to do is write that down. You have a 330x here. And then if you wanted to take the absolute best to the top, remember that price was 600. Let's do 660x, right? 660x. And then if you wanted to do the return from like the day one entry, which is like basically the worst price you could get, it's about 160x, okay? 160x. Now if I do the average of them, it's about 330x, friends. All the real numbers like 380. Let's just put 380x. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you in previous crypto cycles, this is what I've gathered. When I am trying to estimate the next cycle reward, all right, what happens is everybody anchors to this number. So if you go to the early Bitcoin cycles, which I can show you right here. So first cycle, Bitcoin did 20,000x. Then it did 600x. So all the people anchoring to the 20,000x, they got wrecked. Then in the next cycle, we did 100x. Okay, so have a look at this. So the people, this is 100x this is from here to up here, okay, from the low to the top. So that's why people got trapped at the top of crypto, because they were saying, oh, Bitcoin did 600x in the cycle before up here, right? So we're only up 100x. We should keep going. Now, of course, not everybody's looking at this TA, this type of stats, but that's why people kept thinking there's more. That's why they keep thinking it. What happened in our cycle? In our cycle, we were going off the anchor of 100x. We all thought Bitcoin. Now, I knew this. Nobody was even thinking 100x. Nobody thought Bitcoin would go from... Oh, actually, yes, we did. Now, think about it. We thought Bitcoin could go from 3K to 300K, half of gold's market cap. Sure, we did. And we thought maybe it would only do like a 70x. But look how much it destroyed itself, 20x. Disgusting. So that's why everybody is still thinking, hey, we should at least go to like a 100K plus in this cycle, right? So what you end up finding is there's significantly diminished gains. Now, of course, Bitcoin's here is dividing by 5, and you never really know your number. And this is where it becomes very sensitive for you to look at your numbers here, because if HEX did a 380x for that total amount, you are now going to have to be intellectually honest with yourself and say, okay, the average 380x, what would we get? So you can make a case for so many things, and it's so easy to get everybody to hold too long. So you could easily say Pulse and PulseX are cycle 1 coins, and they should also do 380x. There will be people in that camp, okay? So there'll be people saying, you know, PLS plus PulseX equals cycle 1 coins. So they'll say that. But also, other people might say, hey, since it's bootstrapped from hexagons, it's possible that it's a cycle 2 behavior. What do I mean by that? Well, obviously the biggest account holders are clearly all hexagons, and they already had a full cycle. So what is the power of holding through a cycle? The power is that you know there's a gravity limit. You know not to hold too long now. Everybody's seeing this chart. Hex is literally down. It printed like 54 cents here. You saw this chart go down 98, 99%. So don't even worry about these specifics. Don't let anybody get you down. I'm just telling you now. You know, people know this chart exists now. Whether you try to tell them it's the wrong chart and no, it doesn't count, I don't care. I know how markets work. I know how people think. You know how people think too. They think, oh, if Hex can go minus 99%, then clearly Pulse and PulseX would be able to go minus 99% in their future too, or at least minus 95. Same thing, right? That's what everybody's going to be thinking. So that now acts as gravity when you start to go to the top. So this is why we're looking at this because we want to see, do people even let it get to 380x from day one sacrifice for Pulse and PulseX? You know, we're looking at Pulse and PulseX. Do they even let it go up here? That's where we will never know the answer, but we're just trying to evaluate. Now, in my experience, if you say to me, what is the conservative number, the absolute conservative number of when you see something like this, the worst case, okay? I'll tell you what the worst case is. The worst case is you divide it by 10. So 380x divided by 10 would be a 38x return. So this effectively tells me somewhere when Pulse, right? This is Pulse. Somewhere in Pulse is 38x on side around here. Okay, that's 0.0038, 0.0038 here. Around that number, I'm not saying it's going to go down. I'm just saying don't think you should hold everything. Okay, that is what I believe you should be from. You should be looking at it like, okay, from day one sack, around there. And wherever PulseX is, we just got to take it, I guess. So that'll kind of suck if the PulseX ratio is still 3-to-1, because that means we only get like a 12x from here or only way up here, 0.0014. Of course, I understand a lot of people will say these numbers are so low, I refuse to believe in them, and that is completely 100% fine. You're not meant to like believe in any of these numbers. All I'm trying to do is show you that you're going to war. You have to think about the weakest link in the community. You have to think about not how high you can go. You got to think about if the Bitcoin top is a triple top at 80,000 in the next cycle, if this BlackRock ETF is a Trojan horse and they scam the industry down and they extend the bear market later on when nobody expects it, if that happens, you got to be thinking about the weakest hands. And you know Pulse, PulseX, Hex have tiny liquidity, so you know we're going to be super leveraged on the way down. So you're just going to have to evaluate for yourself, how much would you want to get out? You don't have to get out all of it. I'm not saying to do that at all. I'm just saying if we got to 38x, probably at least get something up. At least get maybe 10% out. Just trim 10%, pay off taxes, and just leave it there. And say, okay, I only buy back if there's a 1-year bear market depression. That's it. I only buy back in the depression. I only buy back if things get super, super, super bad. I start DCAing. And you just leave that to the side. That's like your protection money. And, you know, this is super relevant because there were many people here. There were many people. I know this chart looks like it's like, look at this. Wouldn't you have liked, there were people I know who were selling Hex. There's actually one person, shout out to him, who was messaging me in the comment section. I remember he said he sold his Hex at 5 and 8 cents. So he was like from day one, he sold at like 5 and 8 cents. His like average exit was 6. And he said he felt like the worst person in the world. He said he was feeling extremely bad, negative, maybe almost like wanted to harm himself because he saw it go up to 50 plus cents and he got out at 6 cents, did a 10x. He goes, then he saw the pain and despair that we're in now, and now he's happy because everybody got destroyed, which is kind of messed up when you think about it. They're just cheering for everyone's happiness. But that's what happens, fans. Once you exit your bag fully, now you want everything to crumble. That happens in the stock market too. So think about this. So yes, temporarily for that 6 months, as if you never got in, you're fine. Yeah, yes, his 6 cents down here, it looks like the worst exit ever. You're like, oh, what did you miss out on? Look at that up here. But now, I mean, people are begging for just like 1 cent. That's what the scenario is right now. So he got out 5, 6 cents. The combined price of Hex is 1.98 cents, 1.98. So even after all of this, you can see, so horizontal like 1.98. So that's the combined price right there. Okay, so yes, it went up, comes back down. It still like lets him back in. Look where his exit was, and he was seen as like super. He hated himself, right? Look at that distance here. Look at that distance there. So it goes up, it comes back down, just slices right through him. And look, he has months and months and months and months to accumulate cheaper than whatever. From September, so much time to get in. Okay, so once this mania happens, it might go for longer than you expect, shorter than you expect, but at least I've now given you a number here to say, hey, if you want to take an ultra conservative approach, this is the number it would be. You divide this number by 10. You divide 380x by 10, you get about a 38x. There is an optimistic case where instead of dividing it by 10, you divide it by 3. If you do 380 divided by 3, gives you a higher number. Now you're at a 126x. Okay, so it could be 38x conservative or 120x, right? Which is a bit more risk. So this is where now you're going to have to play with fire yourself. You're like, okay, well, I remember, we don't know the future. We're just dealing with the probabilities here. So I can sit here and tell you, yes, 120x, 100%. Pulse and PulseX going to go 120x above day one sacrifice. I can tell you that, but that means nothing. They're just words in the air, right? I can tell you that. What if Bitcoin does scam us at the triple top? What if we can't get here? What if we stop at 38x? So you are going to have to decide, and we're going to play this month by month. Once it starts appearing, once the euphoria and all these signs start appearing, you're going to have to decide, okay, what is our exit strategy? How much do you want to get out? Do you feel comfortable getting out a third and then just leaving it? Do you want to get out more? Because you can just get out like, 15% or 20%. And then if it goes up higher, you get out more. But don't forget, if it is the end there and Bitcoin scams us, you're still going to wish you have got out a lot more, as always. So this is just having a scope of the field, what the game is like, what numbers are possible. And now you've seen Pulse, PulseX, and those numbers you can do. I would like to finish off finally. If you are scared of these numbers, if these numbers upset you, if you are raging inside because of how low these numbers are, because they don't have 1,000+ X's, trust me, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and you need to say, hey, why are you upset? Is it because you're not long enough? Because most of the times it is. Because I tell you right now, all these, there are sharks out there. There are sharks, some of them influencers, some of them just people on Twitter, Telegram. They will tell you, they'll write the numbers 1,000x, but I know their wallet sizes, okay? Some of them have like 1.4 million sacked. I'm telling you right now, they're getting out for a triple. They are getting out for a 3x. They are telling everybody 1,000x. That's what they're going to keep saying. So don't believe any of these numbers. I have a firm belief there is a high frequency of 1,000x plus belief the lower people's wallet sizes go. So when people have $1,000, they will chant out 1,000x because that makes them the round number millionaire. And of course, I made a whole video on that, the round number millionaire trap. We don't want to get trapped there again, okay? So can you consider yourself on the safe side if you do this? At least once we get there, you've been told, try to raise liquidity for yourself to increase your position so you don't have to face the Piper or the Grim Reaper later on. Tell mum and dad we're still going to make it. These numbers are way better than the stock market, friends. We got a lot to be grateful for. Like, subscribe, press the bell button and all. I'm going to catch you in the next one.